Wow, the new graphics. We're getting fancy here on Green on the Greens. It is myself, Iain MacMillan, finally back to talk a little golf. It feels like it has been forever since I've been able to, alongside Cody Williams, to talk this week's Rocket Mortgage Classic. We only have 2 events left in the regular season, and then we dive right into the FedEx Cup playoffs, and then the PGA Tour season will be officially in the books, and season 1 of Green on the Greens will be officially in the books. Crazy. Time flies.
It's gone by so quick, man. And I've missed you. It's good to have you back.
Thank you, my friend. I missed you as well. Let me know, how have you been doing since I've been gone? Specifically, how did you do last week with the 3M Open?
Well, Iain, I think I actually need you back because since you've been gone, I have been absolutely atrocious. I missed everything last week. I had Adam Hadwin to miss the cut. He made it. I had Ricky Fowler top 20, T38, Chris Goddard.
How dare you pick Adam Hadwin to miss the cut?
Hey, he almost missed the cut. He finished on the number. So, I was close. Chris Goddard for a top 10. He was T31. And then my top 5 was Davis Riley. He missed the cut. And then I actually backed the Canadian, Adam Svensson, to win, and he also missed the cut. So it was a bad week for me.
I do respect the boldness of picking Adam Svensson to win, though.
I mean, he's my guy. Thankfully, Brian saved the show. He was hot last week. He had Ricky Fowler to miss the cut, and while he didn't finish top 20, he did make the cut. But he hit Tom Hoagie for a top 20, Sung J M for a top 10, Tony Finau for a top 5, and then he had Mad McNeely to win. But he cashed Finau for the top 5 as the winner. So that's a pretty good week for him, and he saved the show from being a complete bust, thanks to me.
All right, well, hopefully I'll bring you some good luck. We're talking Rocket Mortgage Classic at Detroit Golf Club this week. Before we get into things, because obviously when we're with our picks, we're going to start closest to the win. Have you been doing closest to the win with me gone, or no, since it's kind of a one-on-one bet?
We have not. It's just you and me, so I'm out of practice, so you might be able to take the lead back or at least tie it up here.
All right, so we are going to get into that. I do want to know, do you have any big takeaways for betting on the Rocket Mortgage Classic? My takeaway seems to be, because it is a relatively new event. I think this is only the 4th year that they've had this event. It seems to be you got to be good off the tee and a lot of short approaches as well. So those are the 2 areas that I'm focusing on. It is a Donald Ross course. I don't like Donald Ross courses. I don't like playing them. I don't think they're good for PGA Tour events. And I think they're kind of boring, if I'm being completely honest. I think it's an old style of course. It doesn't really work anymore. I had a membership at a Donald Ross course in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia for a year, and I did not enjoy it. That was one of my least favorite summers of golf ever. Very tough course, too. It just killed me. And I know Donald Ross, he's a very famous course designer. A lot of people like Donald Ross courses. I do not. So do you have any opinions about the course and kind of how to handicap it this week?
I mean, there's a lot of things that came into play, and honestly, I found this to be really difficult to handicap because there's no real correlation with who we've seen win here. It's been Cam Davis, Bryson DeChambeau, and Nate Lashley, who I couldn't think of 3 more different players than those 3 right there. And so I found that hard, but I did notice what you were saying off the tee. It helps if it's more distance. Accuracy is really not that important here. The rough's not terribly grown up, and you don't have to be accurate. And then the short wedges, like you said. But I've also noticed that putting is very key, especially inside of 15 feet, because if you're hitting those wedges close, you've got to convert putts because it's a birdie fest, basically. So we want guys who are putting well, not guys who are really struggling in that area.
Yes, that's true. Another good point is it is a little bit of a birdie fest, so that's going to be something that I'm going to bring up, especially with my pick to miss the cut. I will say one thing about Bryson DeChambeau and Cam Davis, that they both rank well in strokes gained off the tee. DeChambeau was 1st and Cam Davis was 31st, I think, last year when he won. Nate Lashley did not hold up with that trend, though. He's 150th or something, so you're right. It is, right. It's a little mixed bag of winners for sure, but those are the stats I'm looking at. Strokes gained off the tee, and there's approach proximity from 50 to 125 yards out is another one that, of course, a short game, like you said, is always important, but especially so this week. Donald Ross Green's going to be a little tough to put on for sure. All right, let's get into closest to the win. So if anyone wasn't watching back when we were doing this, back when I was last on the show, that feels like it was a month and a half ago, We have a little contest between myself and you. We pick a golfer that has at least 150 to 1 odds to win the event. So just complete off the board dark horses. Whoever's golfer finishes closer to winning, aka closest to the win, gets a point that week. And the loser at the end of the PGA Tour season has to pay for a round of golf for the winner. So I believe, I do need to double check this, but I do think you're right, though, because I asked you before the show what the tally is. I think you're up 3-2. Because if both golfers miss the cut, then it's obviously void. We're not going to just count scores from the first 2 rounds. So I think you're up 3-2. I believe I won the last edition, though, or at least the last time there was a winner. So closer to the win. Golf for 150 to 1 odds or longer. Who are you going with this week?
I'm going with Brandon Hagee. And honestly, if you look at his recent form, that might be a little bit of a surprising pick because he's made just 2 cuts in his last 4 starts, and neither of those were inside the top 25. So he's not really playing that well. But I'm really going off of course history here. He's played the last 2 years, and he was T39 in 2020 and T6 last year. And he's a long hitter off the tee. Like that's the, MO of his game is he just belts it off the tee. And he can get hot with his ball striking. He hasn't been recently, but he can. But I really like his off the tee game and the fact that he has a place, he's played well at this place twice before. So I'm banking on him to do that again.
All right, my closest to the win, I'm going with Austin Cook. He did miss the cut of the 3 Open last week, but he made 5 straight cuts before that. And as we know, with close to the win, sometimes all you have to do is get your golfer to make the cut, and sometimes that's good enough to get the point. But my biggest thing with him, and a big reason why I'm going to back him for close to the win, is very good with his short approaches. 18th on tour in proximity to the hole from 50 to 125 yards out, which I estimate is going to be extremely important this week. So Austin Cook for my closest to the win pick. With a chance to tie it up 3-3.
Oh yeah, it's a big week.
Big week because we only got a few events left, so it's coming down to it for sure. All right, let's get into our picks. So as always, we got top 20, we start off with missed cut, top 20, top 10, top 5, and then our pick to win. So let's get missed cut out of the way. Who are you betting on to miss the cut this week? I hope it is not another Canadian.
It is not a Canadian. It is an American man by the name of Webb Simpson. He has 2 starts at the Rocket Mortgage, and it's kind of a really mixed bag. He missed the cut once, and he was inside the top 10 once. So you don't know what you're going to get with Webb based on course history here. But looking at the numbers recently, he's not losing strokes in any category, any of the 4 major categories over the last 20 rounds, but he's not gaining more than 0.4 in any category either. And that's why when you look at it, he's only made 1 cut in his last 4 starts. And I think when you're going to have a birdie fest and a low-scoring affair, especially in a course that's going to favor long drivers, that's not really something I see out of Webb Simpson this week. I don't think he's playing well enough in any aspect of his game to really keep up with a birdie fest. And so, especially with the Wyndham next week, which we know is a course he loves and has traditionally had a lot of success with, I think we could see him look ahead a little bit too. And when he's not in great form, I just don't see him playing well this week.
To be honest, I know he's not, but Webb Simpson seems like a guy who's playing on the Live Tour right now. Like, I know he didn't sign with him, but, like, it wouldn't shock me if it just came out that he's going to sign with Live. He just seems he's kind of like a past the prime kind of golfer. So I've not thought about Webb Simpson in a while. So he must not have been in contention the past few weeks because I haven't seen his name at all.
Yeah, I mean, his last 4 tournaments are miscut, T13, and miscut.
Yeah.
No, he's not in form.
Have you seen any consensus odds for that? I couldn't find any miscut odds. Usually they don't come out till Tuesday or Wednesday. No.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything for miscut for either of our guys. So
for my miscut, I'm going to get roasted for this one. I do want to say a little caveat is that I'm taking a shot. Okay, like if this was like even odds, then I wouldn't be betting on him to miss the cut. But you're probably going to get like 3-1 odds on this guy to miss the cut. He's one of the favorites this week. He is my best friend, so I do feel guilty about this too. Me and him go way back. We text, we FaceTime all the time. And that is Mr. William Zalatoris to miss the cut. Like I said, bold pick, so just hear me out here. I don't think this is his style of course. He likes long courses. He likes tough courses. Courses he plays well at are basically the complete opposite of Donald Ross designed courses. And he has missed 5 cuts this season, and he's missed a cut in 3 of his last 7 starts. But he is not a birdie fest guy, and that's what this event is. If you look at his best finishes this season, they're all at events that are only like a few strokes under par. T6 at the Masters, he finished 3 under par. Second at the PGA Championship, he finished 5 under par. T5 at the Memorial, which is not even a major, 6 under par. T2 at the US Open, 5 under par. Like, if you have to shoot like 15 under, 20 under to compete and be in contention, that's not when he's going to come out, or at least it hasn't been this season. So I will back him at tough courses. I will not back him at a birdie fest, which is what I expect at Detroit Golf Club this week. So I think he might miss the cut. I think it's worth a bet if you're looking for a long shot, because like I said, odds aren't out yet for miss the cut, or at least not that we could find, but I'm assuming he's got to be like 3-1, 3.5-1. So I'm sorry, Will, please forgive me. Please don't block my number. Will Zalatoris to miss the cut this week.
So the funny thing is you're kind of taking a page out of my book, because I like to get aggressive with miss the cut picks, and that's been burning me a little bit. So I decided to play a little more conservatively. But if I was going to be aggressive, it was going to be Zalatoris for basically everything you said. Like, in theory, he should be good on this course with how far he drives the ball and how good he is with his wedges. Like, birdie fest on like this type of course should be good for him, but they just haven't been. And so backing that history, I think that's a great long shot bet for miss the cut.
Yeah, it's also going to be tough because it's such a weak field. Like, even if he just plays like even a below average round, he should be good enough to make the cut. But like I said, dark horse, getting a little risky. It's my first show in a month and a half. I'm getting a little aggressive. So there you go, to miss the cut, Will Zalatoris. Let's move on to top 20. Who is your pick to finish in the top 20 this week?
So we're going back to Canada for you. I've got Taylor Pendrith to finish in the top 20 this week. He's on the heels of actually 2 straight top 15 finishes at the Barbasol and Barracuda, which I realize aren't great fields, but he's still 2 top 15s. And that was after taking time off, I believe, for what was an injury. It was a minor injury, but he came back and he had 2 top 15s. So I like that form from him. And this goes back to what we said about, being long off the tee. That's what he does well. That's the strength of his game, is he isn't terribly accurate, but he just belts the ball off the tee. And accuracy is not required here because the rough is short and you're going to be hitting wedges regardless if you're hitting it that far. So I like that. And then more importantly, he's gaining strokes on approach over his last 20 rounds. And he's been an actual average 0.0 strokes gained putter. So he's not going to hurt himself with the putter, which has been a problem in the past. But with him being healthy and finding this form in his last 2 starts, I think that he's coming to a place where he can use his greatest strength to his advantage. And so for a top 20, I'm not getting too aggressive, but I'm getting good odds for it. And I think he's just being kind of undervalued. And so I really like him this week.
Yep, great pick. I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, he was off due to injury. The Players' Championship, he finished T13, and then he didn't play again until the Barbasol a few weeks ago, and then he finished T13, T11. And I think if this is correct, even though he missed a huge chunk of the season, still 104th in the FedEx Cup standing, so still he probably needs to get a couple of points here this week and next week, but looks like he's going to keep his PGA Tour card. So he might be a little bit of an underrated name heading into this week. So I do like that pick quite a bit.
Hey, I'm not used to you not playing devil's advocate, so here we go.
I'm sure I will with one of your picks by the end of the show.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's tradition after all. My pick to finish in the top 20 is a guy who has now become one of my favorite golfers, Joo Hyung Kim, to finish in the top 20. I'm trying to, if he was like a stock, like I'm investing in him. I want to be a Joo Hyung Kim investor where I want to be like a hipster, like in 3 years when he's one of the best golfers on tour. I want to be like, I was on him before everyone else was, because he's a 20-year-old. He hasn't played in very many PGA Tour events, but he has that special exemption where he's gained enough points in the events he's played in this season that he now has the right to play. He's exempt for all the rest of the events to try to get his full PGA Tour card by finishing in the top 125 in the FedEx Cup standings. In the few events that he's played in, he's played very well. He has 7 professional wins, all of them in Asia. He finished 23rd at the US Open, 3rd at the Scottish Open, which obviously for those of you who know, that was one of the stronger fields of the year in Europe, because everyone plays in that to get ready for the Open Championship. T26 last week. And if you look at his numbers, he hasn't played in enough events where he's in the actual stats database, but you can kind of compare his numbers so far. He'd rank around 50th on the tour in strokes gained tee to green. So he's putting up good numbers as well. So he, like I said, he's a guy that I want to invest in early before he becomes a household name. He's only 20 years old. He already, like I said, 7 professional wins. That's pretty good. Joo Hyung Kim to finish in the top 20 this week, plus 240.
No, I mean, we don't like to bet on motivation, but I mean, that special exemption is more motivation than a lot of guys have. Like he has to get together those, FedEx Cup points proverbially to, get his tour card. And he has been playing extremely well. Like he finished T26 last week and he shot a 73 in the first round. So I mean, you make that even par and he's in the top 20 easy. So I really like his game. I think he's a rising star. And on top of that, his nickname is Tom Kim because he likes Thomas the train engine, which is the best thing in the world.
Yes, I did forget that, but I remember hearing that last week. That is, that's amazing. That's a fun little tidbit. So, and that is, I will say, that's kind of an underrated thing about these last two events of the regular season, is watching these guys compete because they're literally competing for their livelihood. If they don't finish in the top 125, they lose their PGA Tour card, and they have to, in most cases, go back to the Corn Ferry Tour. So, this is. Obviously not big events for the big names. Most of the big names are just going to rest for the playoffs. But in terms of the guys who are right on the edge, and Ricky Fowler is a big name who's right on the edge. He needs to play well these last 2 weeks if he wants to keep his PGA Tour card. Because I think his exemption is over his Players Championship exemption that he has from winning the Players Championship a few years back. I think he's done at the end of this year. So very exciting to watch these kind of guys right on the edge competing for their tour card.
Absolutely. It adds a lot of drama, and, you get to keep the FedEx Cup watch on tournaments. I mean, like we said, Detroit Golf Club, not exactly the most exciting golf course in the world. So it adds a little bit of interest and intrigue.
All right, so let's dive into top 10. Who do you got finishing in the top 10 this week?
I'm going with Mark Hubbard to finish in the top 10. And he doesn't fit the bill of the long hitters like I have been talking about previously, but I just can't look away from how well he's played recently. His last 3 starts, he's T4, T3, and T13. And while he's not long off the tee, his approach play has been incredible recently. He's gaining 1.05 strokes per round on approach over his last 20 rounds. So he's just striking it so well with his irons right now. And more importantly, like I said, I think putting is you're gonna have to be good putting this week. And he has found a little bit of magic recently, gaining almost a stroke per round on with the putter over the last 20 rounds. And that's why he's 4th best in strokes gained total over the last 20 rounds in this field. So he's just playing better consistently than most people in this field right now. He missed the cut at the Rocket Mortgage last year, but he was T12 in 2020. So he's played well here before. And with the form he's in right now, I really like for him to continue that, especially at a plus 500 number that I think is really, really favorable for a player who's in the form he's in.
I don't like agreeing with you this much because I love this pick as well. Everything you said, great approach play so far this season, 27th in strokes gained approach. Like you said, really good form. T13, the 3rd place finish, the 4th place finish. Has a good finish at this event already. You're not getting too aggressive. It's only a top 10. It's 5 to 1. It's a good price.
Oh yeah.
I hope I disagree with your top 5 pick because I can't go this whole show without disagreeing with you at least a little bit. So
you might. My top 5 pick is a little out there, so we'll see.
All right. My top 10, I'm going to go Russell Henley to finish in the top 10 this week. Not a long driver or not a great driver of the golf ball in general, but he is a fantastic iron player, so I hope he can rely on that this week. And he's very good around the greens as well. He's 3rd in strokes gained tee to green, 9th in proximity from 50 to 125 yards out, and 10th in greens in regulation. So in this field, he's going to be, a top 1, 2, 3, top 3 iron player in the field this week. But also not great form recently. So that is a little bit concerning. I am kind of nervous on that, but I think he's mispriced. I think his odds to win are even down to 55 to 1 to win if you want to take a little bit of a long shot there. I think he's a little bit mispriced. I think he should be, closer up to the top with this being a weak field and with just how good his iron play has been. But like I said, he hasn't really been in great form recently. But I'll take a shot on him to finish in the top 10 in a weaker field event this week at 5 to 1. I think that's a pretty good price.
I refuse to acknowledge that Russell Henley exists for the most part because I had an outright on him at the Sony when he choked it away to Hideki. And so I refuse to acknowledge his existence.
That's right.
So, but I mean, the pedigree fits this course, but one thing I will say that I think works in your favor, and it's kind of like a weird thing I do when I'm handicapping recent form, is he hasn't played a lot. His finishes haven't been good when he's played, but he's played 3 times since the PGA Championship. So he hasn't played a lot. So that makes me think he's working on his game as opposed to like going out there and just struggling on the course. So that would give me a little optimism for this pick for sure.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. Why that he hasn't played that much recently. Maybe it was a small injury. Maybe he's just working on his game. I mean, he is, to be fair, 46th in the FedEx Cup, so he doesn't really need these points
Right.
dwindling down to the end of the season. But yeah, because he did have a strong start to the year. Yeah, so Russell Henley, top 10, weaker field, good iron player. I think he's worth a bet there. So let's move on to top 5. Who do you got?
So for top 5, I have Adam Scott this week. I can definitively say might be the first time I've ever bet on Adam Scott. He's just not a guy that really comes on my radar, but he's quietly finished in the top 15 in his last 2 starts, which were the U.S. Open and the Open Championship. So, pretty good fields to finish top 15 in. And when you look at those 2 tournaments, you're seeing some form that's really starting to round out in a way that's favorable to this course. One of the things I like about Adam Scott's game for this course is he has the ability to, like, he's not statistically a long hitter, but he can dial it up. Like, he tends to hold back on the driver. And so he can dial it up for distance, but he can also dial it in for accuracy if he needs to. And so his strokes gained off the tee number kind of revolves because of that. But he's gaining everywhere else. He's gaining 0.5 strokes on approach per round over his last 20 rounds. But more importantly, he's been putting like crazy over the last 2 tournaments, which is one of the reasons why he has those strong finishes. And he's also historically a really strong wedge player. His wedge game and giving himself good birdie looks inside of 15 feet is something he's done really well over his career. So I like for him to parlay that hot putter with his strong wedge game and to finish in the top 5 this week. And like you said, a weak field.
Yeah, thank you for giving me a chance to be devil's advocate because I'm not a huge fan of this pick, to be honest, personally. I see what you're saying, and actually, I wanted to look up his approach game. 7th on tour and approaches from 50 to 75 yards, but then when you go to like 50 to 125, he's down to 147th. But historically, he's been a lot better than that, and even this year, he is really good, just at very short distances, and he is a long driver of the golf ball. I can't bet on him because of the putter he uses.
I get it.
That long putter is so infuriating to watch. Like, dude, get rid of that thing.
Especially when you can't anchor it. Like, it looks even stupider when you can't anchor it anymore. Yeah. Like, you just like holding it like this, like you're churning butter or something.
Yeah. I will say he's sponsored by Uniqlo. I like Uniqlo as a clothing store. I get some of my clothes at Uniqlo, so that's positive points. If we're handicapping based on what his putter is like and what brand sponsors him, then I kind of like the pick.
Okay, that's a ringing endorsement.
No. I mean, I don't completely disagree with it fully, but I have to play devil's advocate on at least one of your picks. So this is the one I choose to play to play devil's advocate on, and his distances around 100 yards just concerns me a little bit.
I get it, and I mean, like I said, I can definitively say I have never bet on him before, but I think he's going under the radar, and I think the odds at plus 550 for a guy who's been top 15 in the last 2 majors is, a little bit of value that you can mine there.
Yep, for sure. And he also has a T4 at the Genesis this year, a T5 at the CJ Cup. So he certainly had some strong finishes this year for sure. My top 5 pick, going to go with Chris Kirk, plus 750 to finish in the top 5. Talk about a guy who checks every box this week. 21st on tour in strokes gained off the tee, 3rd on tour, and 1st in the field in accuracy from that key window of 50 to 125 yard zone. Also 4th in strokes gained around the greens. Also in his 2 starts here, he's finished 21st and 12th. He finished T5 at the PGA Championship, and he's finished 15th or better in 3 of his last 6 starts. So and basically every single thing that you want to look at for a golfer when you're going to bet on him, he checks every box. The only thing that I am concerned a little bit, not a great putter. I think he ranks outside the top 100 in putting. But my general rule when handicapping golf is it's better to bet on a good ball striker and hope that they have a good round or a good tournament putting than to bet on a good putter and hope they have a good tournament ball striking. So he checks just about every single box, recent form, past success at the event, and he's good in the categories that I'm looking at for this tournament. So Chris Kirk, top 5. I already know that you like this one quite a bit, so why don't we just dive right into our picks to win, and you can talk a little Chris Kirk.
Yeah, so my pick to win is Chris Kirk. So I co-sign everything you just said. You honestly made a lot of my points for me. But I will say, to speak to what you said about the putter, he's not a great putter, but we're working with bent POA greens this week,
Oh,
and that has traditionally been his best surface putting by a long shot. Like he loses strokes putting on other surfaces, but he gains strokes on bent POA.
oh, wow.
So, which probably correlates to why he has a T12 and T21 at the Rocket Mortgage past 2 years, because that's where he feels the most comfortable putting. Like you said, with those short little wedges, he has been the best player on tour this year, and it's been impressive to watch. And on top of that, like he's an accurate hitter, and he's not one of the longer hitters in the field off the tee, but it's not like a Kevin Kisner or your Brian Harmons or someone who's just like, like a lot of these guys would hit their 5-wood out there. Like he drives it a solid amount, and so he's going to be in those distances quite often, and I think he's going to take advantage of it. And frankly, with all, like you said earlier in the season, he was playing phenomenal golf, and I think he's due for a win with the way he's played this year. And I would also like to co-sign your ball strikers argument, because I am a slave to that, if nothing else.
Yeah, so I mean, Chris Kirk might not play well, but I mean, this is the kind of bet that even if it doesn't work out, it's like I'll be happy with it because he checked literally like there's every single sign that points towards him playing well is there. And I love your stat about him on this putting surface. I didn't know that, so great point about that. I love some grass handicapping. It is green on the greens after all, so. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I'm taking him top 5. I'm also sprinkling on him to win as well at 40-1. At least that's the price that I saw out there. So Chris Kirk, yeah, 40-1 for a guy who checks literally every single box this week. Gotta like it.
Great number.
And then my pick to win to kind of wrap up the show here, Cameron Young. I'm going a little bit more chalky. I do respect your aggressiveness taking Chris Kirk at 40-1 as your pick to win. I'm going Cameron Young. I think this is I think it's time for this guy to get a win. What does he have? 4 second-place finishes this year, 2nd at the Open, T3 at the PGA Championship, 1st in the field in strokes gained off the tee, T21 in proximity to the hole from 50 to 125 yards out, 9th in birdie average, on tour 9th in birdie average, 2nd in the field in birdie average. So if we're talking about an event that's going to be a birdie fest, you want a guy who's able to score a lot of birdies, and that's what Cameron Young can do. So he's another guy that checks a lot of boxes. Little bit, it's kind of like a Chris Kirk, except just a little bit more of a chalkier pick. So Cameron Young and Cam Davis won last year. Can we get back-to-back Cam wins? How about that?
That's right. This is the Cameron time of year, because last year Cameron Champ won the 3M Open. So
point. And Cameron Smith just won the Open Championship.
I'm saying
the Cam train rolling.
I love Cameron Young this week. I'm going to have him in some sort of way. I haven't decided if I'm going to go with him outright or just, top 10 to just get some, get a little bit of bankroll build right there. But it's weird, but because the courses could not be more different. But I also liken it to, honestly, why he had success at the Open, because he can drive it a mile down the fairway, but he's accurate. He's one of the more accurate long hitters on tour, which is why he's had so much success this year. But then he gets into those wedges, and he's dialed in with those wedges. So, I think that same recipe is going to work here. So I like that pick a lot.
So that is my pick to win, Cameron Young. I do want to ask you about one other golfer who I'm surprised you didn't list, because he is a guy who has won for you already this year. This is a guy who you have claimed. He is in event. He checks a lot of boxes this week. That is
Max Homa.
Max Homa. Why no Max Homa?
Honestly, because what I've been doing recently has not been working for me on the betting market. So I tried to go a little bit against my instincts. Like Davis Riley checks a lot of boxes this week too, and I'm not going there last week because he burnt me last week. So I'm just trying to go a little bit. But I mean, you're right. Max Homa checks a lot of the boxes around here, and I wouldn't be surprised if he had a good week. So,
any other names stick out to you at
all? The one name that sticks out that should have success, but I worry because he won last week, is Tony Finau.
Right.
Because Finau, I mean, the odds aren't great on him, but I mean, in theory, he should have a lot of success at this course. He's great tee to green. He's great off the tee. His wedges have been really good, and he's been putting better recently. So he should have success here. But it's one of the dumbest things in golf. Every golf handicapper I know tends to, fade the guy who won last week. So
I do it as well. I mean, golfers do win back-to-back tournaments. That has happened.
I know it's actually. I feel like it's happened a lot more this year than like recently. So like it's dumb that we keep doing that. But I mean, he's a guy that I feel like we have to mention because of. I mean, he's been trending and he's starting to win, which is the un-Tony Finau thing, you know. So
I will say I will miss the Tony Finau can't win a tournament thing that everyone always says. The narrative that he can't win. That was kind of fun.
Oh, absolutely. Now he's won twice in the last 11 months. I don't know what world we're living in.
Yeah, it's not fun anymore. The other name that I mentioned that I would actually recommend staying away from, this is a guy who I think has now become overrated a little bit. I'm curious your thoughts on him. That's Sahith Theegala. I think he's a young, promising golfer, but I think he had those couple of close calls, like is the Phoenix Open, where he's like winning all the way until one of the last couple holes, and he became like a media darling, and the media loves him, and fans love it, and for good reason. But now people are kind of like overrating him. Like he missed the cut last week, T34 at the Open, which actually isn't a terrible finish for a major championship. But like, I just think his price, I think he's 40-1 this week. Like, I just think he's just being overvalued now. He's 74th in total strokes gained, 73rd in approach. Like, he's like I said, 148th in putting. Promising young golfer that I'm sure will have a great career, but I think he's being a little bit overvalued now.
No, I couldn't agree more. Sahith is someone who I just don't ever bet on because A, like you said, the price is never what I want it to be because he's so popular. But B, I think he's horribly inconsistent right now, which is kind of the calling card of a young player. Like he has all these great finishes, which shows his potential, but then he'll back it up with something outside of the top 50, or he missed the cut last week. Yeah. So like he's just horribly inconsistent, and like you said, 40-1, like that's a hard price for me to back him at any stage. And another guy who I did want to mention, who I forgot to, and who I was very close to having in my top 10, but I like the value on Hubbard better, is Kevin Kisner. He has been T8 and T3 in the last 2 years at this tournament, and he doesn't fit the bill of the long drivers. Like he's a very short hitter off the tee, but he's so good with his irons, and he can get hot with the putter, and he obviously has good feels here. So, 2 straight top 10s here is hard to ignore, and he's played well recently as well. So that's another name I wanted to get out there.
I'm certainly going to target next week at the Wyndham because he's going to be the defending champ. So Kevin Kisner there's a few guys on tour that they're guys that just certain events and certain courses you bet on them, and then other ones you just stay away. And Kevin Kisner is certainly one of those guys where he has his courses, he knows those are his courses, and he plays well at them almost every single year. So I like Kevin Kisner as well. So there you have it, this week's Rocket Mortgage Classic. Wyndham Championship next week to finish up the regular season. Then we get it into the FedEx Cup playoffs. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
No, I just hope that, a relatively mundane tournament like, the Rocket Mortgage Classic delivers like the 3M Open, because I had a lot of fun last week, more fun than I expected watching golf. So I'm hoping that we get a similar type of tournament this week. Yeah,
I agree. So best of luck to your picks, Cody. Best of luck to my picks. Best of luck to the picks of everyone watching. Thank you for watching, and for watching on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Best of luck, and we will talk to y'all next week for the Wyndham Championship.
We'll see you there.